A calendar changes its date every day, quietly and without warning, but sometimes one single date changes a life so deeply that nothing is ever the same again. And this is the story of a man who lost almost everything yet refused to let life break his spirit. His name was Rohit, and he was born into a world where survival mattered more than dreams. His childhood was shaped by narrow streets, small meals, and the constant sound of worry in the background. When Rohit was only 6 years old, life struck him with its first unbearable loss. His mother passed away suddenly, leaving behind a silence that settled into every corner of their small home. From that day forward, his father became both parent and protector, carrying grief in his heart while carrying responsibility on his shoulders. His father worked in a steel factory, spending long hours in unbearable heat, earning just enough to keep them alive. Even on days when his body begged for rest, he made one thing clear: Rohit would go to school. He ate less so his son could eat more, saved every coin so school fees could be paid, and reminded Rohit that education was the only path out of suffering. As Rohit grew older, hardship became routine. By the age of 13, he had learned to wake up before dawn, cook simple meals, clean the house, and prepare for school while his father left for work before sunrise. Their life was exhausting, but they never complained. They believed that pain was temporary if purpose remained alive. Rohit was bright and disciplined, often standing first in his class despite the weight of responsibility he carried. His father watched him quietly, holding on to one dream: to see his son become a doctor, someone who could save lives instead of fighting to survive. But life was not done testing them. One ordinary workday turned tragic when a heavy piece of iron fell on his father's hands at the factory. The injury was so severe that doctors had no choice but to amputate both hands. When his father finally returned home after months in the hospital, he was no longer the same man. His strength had been replaced by despair, his confidence shattered. Sitting in silence, he whispered that he had lost everything: his wife, his health, and now his ability to work. The dream of seeing Rohit become a doctor felt impossible. Rohit sat beside him, held his father close, and promised something that seemed too heavy for such young shoulders. He said that the dream was still alive, and no matter how hard life became, he would become a doctor. From that moment, Rohit's childhood truly ended. He studied early in the morning, attended school during the day, and after classes, he walked door to door selling soap for a small company. The money was barely enough, but it paid school fees and bought food. Weekends disappeared into long hours of work, hunger, and exhaustion. There were nights when Rohit collapsed on the floor from tiredness, questioning how long he could continue. Then came the darkest moment. The deadline to submit his college admission form arrived, and Rohit had no money left. For days he sold nothing. Hunger gnawed at him, hope weakened, and the fear of failure pressed heavily on his chest. On the final evening, defeated and trembling, he approached one last house, not to sell soap, but to ask for food. A kind woman opened the door, saw the exhaustion on his face, and offered him biscuits and water without asking questions. When she learned about his situation, she quietly went inside and returned with the exact amount he needed for his admission form. Rohit could not speak. Tears filled his eyes as he thanked her, touched her feet, and ran to submit the form before time ran out. Years passed, marked by struggle, discipline, and unwavering faith. Rohit studied relentlessly, never forgetting the sacrifices behind every opportunity. Slowly, his efforts bore fruit. He became a doctor, respected for both skill and compassion, and eventually opened his own nursing home. His father watched with pride, his broken hands resting in peace, knowing his suffering had meaning. One day, a critically ill elderly woman was brought into Rohit's hospital. She was poor, alone, and suffering from advanced tuberculosis, with one lung completely damaged. The staff hesitated, worried about the cost of treatment, but Rohit made a firm decision. He said money did not matter when a life was at stake. For 2 months, he ensured she received the best care, staying by her side, guiding his team, and refusing to give up on her. When she finally recovered and prepared to leave, Fear filled her eyes as a nurse handed her an envelope, believing it contained a bill she could never pay. Inside was no bill, only a note explaining that her treatment had already been paid for long ago with 500 rupees she once gave to a desperate boy selling soap. That boy was now a doctor, and this was his way of repaying a kindness that gave him a future. Tears streamed down her face as Rohit entered the room and gently told her that she had saved his life long before he saved hers. In that moment, the circle of kindness closed, proving that no good deed is ever lost. Rohit's story is not just about success, it is about endurance, faith, and the quiet power of compassion. He lost everything that mattered early in life, yet he never gave up. Through sacrifice, determination, and unexpected kindness, he restored hope not only in his own life, but in the lives of others. His journey reminds us that when life takes everything away, the choice to keep going can still change the future, and that even the smallest act of kindness can echo through time in ways we may never imagine.